This meeting is being recorded.
So can we start with a go around with something that some of your rock members pulled off successfully, or maybe a challenge your board took on in the last few months that you feel worked? Anybody have any interesting anecdotes or stories around that to share?
I don't, not that I recall.
Well, Carol, you guys faced a complete failure of your wells.
Oh, well, yeah, if you're speaking of that, are they completely failed now?
No, but you were staring at catastrophe.
Yeah, well, the wet one up by me is 60-something years old, and it was only generating, what, 8 gallons a minute of water.
Something like that.
They dug down, and now it's 25 gallons a minute, which is unacceptable. Now the well up the hill, I understand that, or that was 8 gallons a minute also. And Joe hasn't, the plumber has not been here to do the digging down further on the well. I don't understand why he wasn't here yet.
So there's a second round. Are you guys off restriction, or you're still on restriction?
Off on restriction as far as watering the lawns, washing cars, no power washing. And you're hearing from more and more people, the pressure of our water for us up here where I am is less than others down below. But with this issue, it's not good. It's not good. It's not good.
Could I point out that your board successfully took steps to address the situation, and you were in a situation where nobody could take a shower, and now you're working your way out of it. So kudos to you guys, even if the struggle continues.
Yeah.
Deb, you looked like you were going to share something.
Oh, no, I was just thinking we did just successfully complete a paving project. So that's good that that's done. It got delayed from last year. So we finally got that finished. So that was a good thing. We're on water restrictions just because New York State is on a water watch. So we put our community on water restrictions for things like power washing and washing cars and stuff like that, just to be preemptive and hopefully not need to go on any further restrictions. Not being able to shower, I can't imagine having to tell our community that we can't. So we also have really old wells, not 60 years, but over 30 years. So the board did just vote to purchase a new pump for the well that hasn't had that pump changed out in over 30 years. So we can do some preventative maintenance on that. And hopefully we won't land in the same position that Carol's folks are in.
Yeah. There's
Hopefully.
by us, John, there is another well by the sewer system, which is not recommended to use. However, I got a phone call from Gary, a guy that used to work here in the community for a long time. He moved away, so we were just reminiscing, and I was explaining to him what's going on here. And the well by the sewer is doing 100 gallons a minute, but they say we can't use that one because of the location where it is. So that's unfortunate, but I wouldn't want to use it anyway.
Yeah, looks like you got some problem solving to do.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any other stuff to share from their communities? Challenges met, challenges continuing to be met, successes in the community?
Well, Pat's being very quiet, so I think I'll say something that all 4'9" of her took on New York State Electric and Gas so that we could get going on our grant to have our new electrical infrastructure start. Pat, you want to add anything?
No, but don't ever hesitate to use those politicians. I got almost immediate results when I called Tom O'Mara's office.
Is that an
Because
assembly
NICEAG would
person?
not let go of,
He's a senator.
Senator.
yeah, NICEAG would not let us start this project. And they held it up for months. And we were almost at the point of losing our grant.
Wow,
And it was a $998,000 grant.
wow.
So
Kudos.
She's feisty.
Good job, man. And any word on the electrical connection for the new applicants, the new members coming in?
yes, that's all taken care of, all done.
All right.
Took a few calls to NICEAG, but we accomplished it.
And I just sat in on a meeting with the folks from Cateros today, and they've got 23 empty lots to fill, but they had a meeting today with Clayton Homes, and Clayton Homes looks like they're happy to bring in homes on spec to their community. So that's a bright light. There's possibility. So they're going to meet to determine whether to move ahead with that. So that was pretty cool.
John, does that mean that they would bring a new home in and site it just in case there was someone who in turn wanted to rent it? And who owns the home? Does the person coming in own it? Or does the corporation own it?
Yes, so on spec means that the manufactured home retailer bears the risk
Okay,
of bringing in the home. They bring in the home, they do the marketing, they find somebody to move in there, and they're rolling the dice instead of the co-op on what the market will bear. And they have more market information than the board does, because this is what they do for a living. So they have a better sense of what the community, will it be a single wide, a double wide, all the bells and whistles, some of the bells and whistles, plain vanilla,
yeah.
that kind of
We
stuff.
just have one site that's vacant without a mobile home on it, and we've contacted local manufactured home salespeople just in case something like that arises, but I was just curious.
So none of the local retailers are interested in doing a spec placement.
At this point, I don't think so, but I'm not sure how it was worded to them. I didn't make the phone call.
Yeah, so
Sherry's shaking her head. I don't know, maybe she knows more about it. You're on mute, Sherry.
you're on mute.
You're on mute, Sherry. She knows. She's not gonna unmute.
There I am.
Oh,
I
there
found
she
it. I decided to quit poking myself in the face and went up to the toolbar.
There you go.
No, the approach was if anybody's looking for something, we have a lot. It was not
Oh,
direct. What about this? And I think it's a great idea. So that's my first great takeaway so far, John. Keep going.
The word is spec, and it's spelled SPEC.
right.
And some of these retailers are looking to sell more homes, and they're having a hard time finding places, and people are coming in and they're looking to buy a home, and they can't find a land, or they can't afford the land. So, and there are not enough places in parks to place them. So it's a win-win.
Okay.
All right. So is anybody bringing questions to the meeting today about 55 and older, or emotional support animals, or rejections or applicants, and what your powers are in terms of accepting or rejecting applicants? Does anybody have any specific questions?
We are going through that now. Do you hear that noise in the background?
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, somebody else came on.
Dave's
Yeah,
here.
he's got it.
Hey, Dave.
Can't see myself, but am I here?
Yeah, and we see your tennis.
Yep. I get to watch the TV and watch you guys at the same time.
Yeah. So Carol, what is it that what's your question for the group?
Well, we have one person here that when they originally moved in, they had a dog that was over 25 pounds. And she signed a paper stating that she was agreeing to the bylaws, the rules, and she, didn't bring the dog with her. She gave the dog to the daughter. Now I understand that the daughter had some kind of surgery. Now this dog is back with the woman that lives here, and she's been approached that the dog needs to leave, or go back to the daughter. And now
The dog is bigger than the rules allow? Is that the point?
yes, it's over the 25 pounds. So now what she's doing is she's applying for to have this dog as a service dog or an emotional, dog for them. But I don't have a problem with that if it's legit, but I searched online. I have things here. It is so easy to get them. All we want to know is the legit ones, the legal ones, that if it's all right, the way they went about it and it's legal, then we have no problem, but the fact, I think this woman here is just, she's just trying to pull one on us by doing that.
So any response for Carol's situation? Anybody have?
John, I
wisdom?
can add a little something.
Okay,
It's Cheryl here. It's with another park that I'm also a board member of. We had the same issue about support animals. An attorney came in, and it's very almost identical to service animals. The thing with a service animal, you can't ask the person why they have it. An emotional support animal, how we handled it down there, it was a note from the doctor. It said, and that's all. And unfortunately, sometimes in my mind, we get too much information. I think if a licensed doctor said this person meets the criteria for it, then that's that, and it's done.
yeah, and this is regulated under the Americans with Disability Act. People with disabilities are a protected class. So the legal liabilities are huge, and it's not like a local law you're breaking, it's federal law you would be breaking. So this is a huge responsibility of boards to do the right thing. It's called fair housing. Well, the ADA, it's the Americans with Disabilities Act. So there's some fine points on it. Cheryl's pointing out the difference between service animal and an emotional support animal. Service animal is, I think, typically dogs that are trained. So they actually have to go through a whole program and they get like certified. An emotional support animal there's like two categories. One is like typical animals that you would find in a home, typical pets you would find in a home. So that's like bunnies, dogs, cats, and for some reason they put turtles in that category. And you have the right to ask for the letter and so this is, Carol, this is where you're getting into going online. If they do a therapy session online and they get a letter from a licensed care provider that says they have a right to an emotional support animal, then you need to comply with the Americans with Disability Act and let them do that. Now, I kind of humorously said, can it be an iguana? If they have a letter that says animal, then no, it can't be. But if they specifically have a letter that says emotional support iguana, then yes, they can, the iguana
Oh.
can count.
Now, I have a
But
quick
but the
thought.
letter has to say iguana. But if it just says animal, then it can be one of a whole, like there's a list of them. And HUD has put out a memo on this, and it's like furry animals that you would think about plus turtles. So I guess my emphasis is be careful, man. Don't create problems there, and it's a loophole. And so here's a person, she might not really need this dog, this overweight dog, or dog that's fine, but it's bigger than it's allowed to be. So this this might not smell good, but you can't take a step to enforce your rules against her because it smells bad or it doesn't pass the laugh test. Legally, you have to just you have to eat it. You have to go along with whatever the licensed professional's letter says. So that's all I got on that. Any questions about that?
Well,
I
John,
have one. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Pat. You're probably gonna
I
say the
was just-
same thing I was going to, so.
I was just gonna say, we are in the process of doing a rule change proposal concerning pets. And one of the items reads, owners of emotional support dogs will be required to provide a letter from a local veterinarian or a local licensed psychologist stating the need for a support dog. Support dogs cannot exceed the 25-pound limit as stated above. Is that going to be legal?
I think you're gonna get legal input. You're gonna wanna put that past a lawyer, and you're gonna wanna show it to Rock USA. And I think the feedback you're gonna get is emotional support, scratch out dog, add animal,
Add animals, okay.
and licensed, I think, what did you say, therapist or psychologist? I think
A psychologist or local veterinarian.
they're gonna scratch that out and say licensed healthcare provider.
Okay. Okay, we can make that. And
Yeah.
actually, we have an appointment with our attorney next week and I will present that to her.
There you go.
And
that's-
it will go to Rock anyway, so.
Yeah.
My comment was that we have had people provide us with a letter. However, the letter is from somebody from either the Philippines or California. They're not local. That's why Pat's changing this. regulation.
So
We don't have to accept those, do we?
well, so if it's a licensed healthcare professional from the Philippines, you do.
It doesn't have to be local.
Well, check with your lawyer. My understanding, and Carol pointed out, this woman is good, they're thinking about going online, or Carol went online, you can get them online.
Mhm.
And
Oh, yeah, I know you can get them online.
It's
Yeah.
very easy.
And so ask your lawyer. I think the lawyer is going to say, as long as they're licensed, it doesn't matter where they practice.
So
Now,
how do you check to make sure they're licensed?
The license numbers should be on all their correspondence.
All right, thank you.
We'll get that taken care of before our August community meeting.
Yeah, and this is a big headache for boards because sometimes it doesn't pass the laugh test, and it's very annoying.
Mhm.
But there's nothing we can do. Our hands are tied.
Right.
now the health care provider, that should be a psychiatrist.
I think they're making it a broad category. So again, check with your lawyer on what I've read in the from the where was it? I think it's the HUD memo that came out, said licensed healthcare provider.
And we have another gentleman here that's selling his home privately. And we were informed that they have a dog that's over 25 pounds, but the paperwork was submitted to J&J, our management company. And we have yet to, do we have a right to request to see these papers?
Yes, you have a right to make sure that they have to show you the papers. You don't have a right to know what their disability is.
Yeah, but we could see the papers.
Yeah.
Okay.
What if there's no disability associated with the reason that they have the pet?
then
How do
it's-
we know?
Then
Well-
there's no issue, right?
well, we're using it broadly defined. So if they suffer from anxiety, that would count. They don't have to be. Like I have a friend who has high blood pressure, and she lived in subsidized apartment building that did not allow animals, but her dog apparently was supposed to be sensitive to her blood pressure, and so that was that they had to accept that note from her doctor.
But it was a note from the doctor.
That was the
Well,
in
that
this
falls, yeah,
case.
because it falls under medical, a service
Yeah.
dog rather
Right,
than an
so-
emotional support dog.
I'm talking about if we're not dealing with an emotional support animal. And we're talking about a family who just has a dog. That is a large dog, then that dog happened to bite someone. And we don't have a rule that limits the size or the breed of the dog at this point in time. But we do have a rule that says you can't have a dog with any kind of aggressive behavior that, or including biting. Then it would be within the management company's prerogative to send a notification to that party that they have violated a rule and they need to remove the dog from the premises.
Mhm.
And we wouldn't have to worry about any kind of emotional support animal if they haven't declared them as such.
Yeah.
What if, what if after we do that, they declare them as an emotional?
Yeah,
support animal?
I
Then-
don't have the answer to that question. I would love to know what a lawyer
Good
would say
fight,
about
John.
that.
Yeah, well, I think more and more people are aware of this here. And this is what they're doing to be able to have their dogs. And if they show the proper paperwork, like you said, as long as it's legit, I have no issue with that. Neither does the board. But with this one particular person, she's just, being spiteful. She's just not going to give up the dog, and she will go and do anything to be able to keep this dog. That's how we see it here.
Yeah,
It sucks, but there's nothing you can do. In the case that a dog, an emotional support animal that bites people, wow. So, you would want to think that the government would allow you to keep the members of the community safe from that animal and make sure that that animal's not allowed to live in the community. But that's a
And-
question for a lawyer.
I'm not saying that this is an emotional support animal,
Yeah.
hasn't been declared as such until all of a sudden they're told that they have to get rid of it. And I think it's something to be aware of, that they might, if they're thinking about it, come back and say, hey, guess what? This is my emotional support animal. Now you can't make me get rid of it. So there might be something that we might want to be aware of and see, just kind of forewarned that that's a possibility. And I never would have thought of that.
Right.
And
So they're
I-
playing chess. You got to play chess also.
Yeah, I guess.
Because that's what's happening here with this woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I have just a question on it. It's this woman that is not willing to go by the rules, and she's got an overweight or over big dog. Is the dog a nuisance in any way?
You know what it is? She's way in the back, down one of the roads. You don't see her walking her dog. She's being sneaky. You don't see her walking the dog anywhere. She goes to the back and she's not even picking up, because one of the other neighbors in that area walks her dog back there and she sees all this here. And this woman is defiant because she'll stand there and look at you like saying, ha, I got this dog.
Well, so this is not cleaning up after yourself?
That's another thing that she's not doing. But
Well,
she
you
does-
can,
she
you
does,
know,
well, yeah, I don't know
You-
exactly what Marge has approached with her,
Yeah.
about. But that's another thing, it's a leash law and you need to pick up after,
Yeah.
your animal.
so you guys have complaint forms, right?
Yeah.
So the neighbor should be able to submit a complaint form about the dog poop, because backyards are not, that's I mean, that's everybody's
Yeah.
property.
It is
right?
common area where she's walking. It's by the woods. It's in the back of her house, but further in from her, further away from her house. But she just walks over there, like, so, she's not seen with this dog. She's
Yeah,
deliberately
so, but
doing
if the
it.
dog is pooping on a common area, then that's that's something somebody can submit a complaint form.
Yeah.
About, yeah. Any other questions about emotional support animals? Okay, so is there any interest in going over the power, because I've got a PowerPoint, I could go through it. Any interest in your powers to accept and reject applicants?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yes. I will light up the PowerPoint and run through the slides.
Thank you. That is, yes.
Let me see something. Okay, so I gotta share the screen.
I have a question about that. If someone's interested in a home, I'm curious to know how anybody else would handle this here. The one person is of age, over, the 55, and the wife isn't.
Yeah, that's in here. I'm gonna cover it. Hang on. All right. So you guys know about the credit. So is everybody seeing a slide that says FICO credit score?
yeah.
Yes,
Okay. So you can do a credit score, you get a number back. Do you have to follow that number? Does it, like, you have multiple applicants for a home, or you have one applicant? Is there one number that you can use as a cutoff point? The answer is no. You shouldn't be using the credit score number specifically as a make it or break it. It's a little more detailed than that. And so a credit report has 4 components. The most particular, the things that impact your decision making here are the credit history and the public records. So you're going to get information from the credit report about how they're doing on paying, have they done on paying their bills, and their repayment history and what they owe, but also public records such as tax liens or court judgments. So the red and the orange here are what you should be concerned about. So if someone's gone to court and they've had a judgment against them, then that is something that you can take into consideration in rejecting someone. Or if they've got judgments that they still owe, you could take that into consideration. You can also ask the landlord or the place that they last lived if they would recommend renting or accepting this applicant. So their word can be part of your decision-making process. I believe it is illegal in New York State to see if they were ever evicted, but this is second best. This is, would you recommend them?
Do you have to have their permission
Nope.
to ask?
Well, so what you want to do on the application is you tell them all this. You say, and I'll get to this, the application,
Okay.
You say, we're going to be checking credit history. We're going to be checking, give us a reference, right? So, and we'll get to this. You can have a no empty, or every question needs to be answered policy. So you can reject somebody if they don't answer every question. And you can reject somebody here. So you can deny an applicant if, for their criminal status. You can deny an applicant on their credit background being a bad bet for the co-op, but you can also deny them for providing false information on the application. Like it's just a sorry, that's a deal breaker. So, and also the income requirements, right? So, and the income requirements, typically, the rule of thumb is 30% that the lot rent or membership association fee should not exceed 30% of their income, or typically all expenses put together, propane, electrical, and fees should not exceed 49% is another rule of thumb. And so this is kind of like a bunch of different factors that you can take into consideration. All of these are deal breakers. So you can say no based on all of these things. Just one of them can be a deal breaker.
Is there a level as far as the sex offender goes, or just any sex offender?
Well, I don't know the law around it. I think it's black or white, but then there's gradations. Like somebody was an 18-year-old and had a partner that was, what is it, 17 or 16? So now they're a sex offender, but common sense maybe would think otherwise. But I think there's a whole area of New York state law, and if they've been convicted in that area of law, it's black or white.
John, I have a question about the negative credit background. We were told, and I don't know who told us this, that we cannot deny somebody entrance into the co-op with a bad credit score, which never made sense to me, but we have gone by that rule. Now,
Well, the credit score in and of itself is not really what you want to do. You want the credit report to reveal that they have a history of not paying their bills. It's
All
the
right.
nuances that you get in the credit. Remember, it said, well, here, if you see it, it says a negative credit background, not a negative credit score,
right.
right?
Yeah.
So really what you want to know is, did someone sue them for not paying something they owed? And that could also be as a business person. So that's called, like, what is it? That's called trade references, right? So this is payment histories between business customers and suppliers or vendors. So it's not always my credit cards or my rent. Sometimes it's I'm a contractor and I just didn't do what I was supposed to do with payments around something.
Right.
That would also
We
count.
encountered another problem. I would call it a problem. We had an 18-year-old wanted to buy a house. Well, of course, anything on his background check, they couldn't give us any information because of his age.
Right. Yeah. So
then we're stuck. We had two people that applied for that.
well, there's alternatives that and for instance, Pastone tries to lean over backwards and look at other ways of proving good credit. Did they pay any bills that were owed, right? So is there a way to go beyond the credit report to more unorthodox ways of proving ability to pay on time? So, did they? And that might be really hard with an 18-year-old. So that's just a hard example.
Yeah.
When you're a juvenile, you're not going to show up on any credit report, or you're not going to see the juvenile's record. That's all sealed.
Yeah. It's all sealed.
Oh, right. Okay. So that's a good one. Don't know the answer to that. All these answers are about non-juveniles. So a good applicant are all these common sense things that you would, there's one on here, where is it? Or maybe it was, one thing you can do is, if there's two applicants and all things are equal, you could drive by their homes and see who's got the, you know, does one of them have a horrifyingly messy home, you know? And that could be a deal, you know, you could use that to favor the other person because,
Yeah.
you know, they had tires outside on their front lawn and you don't want that. So here, so when I took this course with the Housing Council, they gave us this quiz. And they asked us, which applicant would you choose? Anybody have any ideas about which applicant of all these applicants would be the best for their community?
I'm thinking tenant C.
Me too, it's tenant C.
That's the one I chose, and they said that wouldn't be wrong. And if you look, 689 is less than 700.
Yeah,
So tell me why I know why I say tenant C. Why do you say tenant C?
I would say because there's a good history of employment.
Mm-hmm.
The current address, they lived at that address a long time. Previously for a pretty long time. The earnings are a little bit low.
But then look at the debt to income ratio. It's very lower is better. So they're getting by on 22 grand. So that's good.
Well, that's what I was just gonna say, because then there it says it's 0.18.
Yeah. Anybody else have any thoughts about this?
I would have agreed.
So see how it's complicated?
Yeah.
But so the credit score is useful information, but it's not the be all and end all. So this is kind of, there's a lot of data to take into consideration. But you definitely want the debt to income ratio to work. And, you know, like I said, all these are all deal breakers. So any one of these can be a reason that you just pound your shoe on the table and say no.
So on your application, do you have a question that asks what their gross income is?
Yeah.
You do. I don't
Your
think.
well, your property management company should have that.
Can I ask a question? No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I don't think our property management company doesn't do anything with the interview or the documents or anything.
So you guys could use an example. You could use a template.
Probably.
Yeah. Okay. I will look around to see if I can get you examples of applications.
I mean, we do the background check. That's done by the management company because I wouldn't have access to do that. But I get the authorization for them to do that. Send it to the management company, the results come back, and then we do a member interview with representation from the board and the applicant, and then make a determination from there. And then we just have like the occupancy agreement and those kinds of documents that are signed by the members when that decision's been made.
You have a criminal background check done?
Yes.
Yeah, so criminal back check, and you get the credit report.
Yes.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
the management company for us, they pretty much do all this here, but are we allowed to see the complete paperwork from them as the board? Or no?
It's a good question. I gotta look at, I'd have to get back to that. Back to you with that. There's
That's
some
fine.
restriction in what you can see. And I can't recall what.
Well, I know, John, the ones that we do, our management company does, we don't know anybody's income,
Mhm,
but we do have their credit history.
right.
Right.
You know, that kind of tells you what kind of shape they're in. So
Right.
that
But we
kind
have,
of answers that question, but.
Well, so luckily, Path Zone does this for a living, right? So it's my little part doesn't do this, but we build affordable housing, and then we do our own property management, and we rent out. So I've got people in the organization I can ask that question, And so I can get a, for Meadow Valley Park, I can get you a copy of our application.
Thank
And-
you. Thank you
yeah,
very much.
and I could get back to you, Pat, to see if you have the right, and Carol, what you have the right to see. So I'll get back to you on that.
And that would apply to us at Meadow Valley as well, because
Right.
right now, maybe we're seeing something we're not supposed to see. I don't know.
Yeah, yep. And I sent all these documents to Meadow Valley, so you guys should all know
have
that this stuff is available for you. So all this stuff we've been talking about, credit worthiness, so you can put that into your policy, right? So it can be very cut and dried. And that means, that makes it easy for your board. You don't have to argue about, you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you have a conversation. It's right there in your policy, and it directs the property management company about what to look for. And then you can have a credit report policy that talks about how it should go. And then you can have membership screening guidelines that talk about, that tell you where the third rails are, so that you don't ask questions that can get you in trouble with a lawyer. And
That was shared with our whole board and everybody before we, and it's a reminder, before we do meet with someone, that document is shared.
that's perfect. And then it's important to keep in mind that you want to have the same list of questions every time and be consistent.
Which we do.
Yeah, well,
And that's pretty much it. That's,
Can you
that's
send those to us, John?
the policy stuff. Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm,
yeah, that'd be good.
Please.
Yeah.
I have, what's been your experience or stories about evictions from a co-op?
Pat and Bev, didn't you guys just do that?
We're working on one right now. Mhm.
You want to
But we
share
do-
what
we
you
go
learned
to-
from the process?
We put that right in our attorney's hands. And she does the original letter. And the first, it's according to how long they've lived here. If they've lived here over a certain number of years, you have to give them 90 days to comply. I'd say they're way behind in their rent. You'd give them 90 days to comply. If that isn't taken care of in 90 days, then they get a petition to court. And then that's a 30-day. And after 30 days, they will
And
go
they-
to court.
Yeah,
And
that at that point, it's called a pay or quit letter.
yes,
Oh, and is Dave here? Because he was a landlord.
Here, I'm just shooting myself up with this.
Yeah, so,
Dave disappeared.
well, Dave is a seasoned landlord, so he's been through this process as well. So, but Pat, I interrupted you, Pat. I'm sorry. Keep going.
well, after they go to court, then of course it's in the judge's hand. But we have been successful
Good.
in evictions. And the judge, any ones that, because I was president for 4 years before this term. And I was reelected last year. So I have another year on this term, but we were successful with evictions. The judge, the court always ruled in our favor. The only problem was if they owed us money, we never got it.
But so my understanding is if they owe you money, then you can ask them to sign over their home to the co-op.
Yes.
Or can they take it out of, if someone like obviously owns the home, can they take it out of what the home was sold for, like off the top, what they owe
Put a lien
us?
on it.
Yeah,
Yeah, did you hear Dave?
no, I'm sorry, I
Say it
didn't.
again, Dave.
You need a lien.
Elaine,
If there's a lien on the deed, that would have to get paid off at the closing. So the lien would be paid off, and then the seller would get whatever was remaining.
That, or title. Right.
And then it would be clean title for the new buyer.
Okay.
Pat, do you want to explain what we did for the one family that has their home for sale? And our attorney wrote up something.
Yes. We have a young couple, well, fairly young, they're probably in their early 30s. They want to move to Oklahoma. They originally came from Oklahoma and they want to sell their home. But right now they're 5 or 6 months behind in their rent. And so we had the attorney draw up a letter stating that when they sell their home, that whoever buys their home will write them a certain amount of money and then write us a check for the amount that they owe us, so that we should be guaranteed that we'll collect that money that they owe us in back rent. And they were very agreeable to that and they signed it.
So remind me to get that. That would be a good for the newsletter. I want to put that out in our newsletter. in the
Okay,
spring.
I'll bring you a copy of it, John.
Cool.
It was very well written. And also we have a young couple, they're probably in their 30s too. They live in a very small single wide, which they do not take care of. And they don't even let anybody in the house because it's so bad in there. And the outside is just cluttered, just plain cluttered. And the wife told me that they can't sell their home because it's not fit to live in. So that leaves us to believe that it's going to have to be demolished. Now, if I'm not mistaken, in our bylaws, it says if the home has to be demolished when they abandon it, that they have to pay for the demolition.
Hang on. Well, I don't know the answer to that, but if they can't sell it and they abandon the home and you get the title to it, I would hesitate knocking it down. I would seriously have a very, detailed discussion of what could be done.
Well, we would
Because
do that, John, except we've been told that it's full of black mold in there.
that's the one thing that I would say. If it's got, that's the one deal breaker. Yep.
And living in that?
What?
Yeah,
I don't-
people live in homes with black mold. They're destroying their
Oh,
health,
yeah,
and
their
they do.
their roof leaked, yeah.
Oh, that's
We didn't
sad.
think about
That's, wow.
Yeah, so they
And my
might be
concern,
cutting their life
really,
short,
my concern is for the children.
Yeah.
right?
Oh, that's
So, well, if it's got black mold, you might want to call the municipality.
Well, I've called, I called
I
our
should have known
codes
better.
enforcement officer and they wouldn't let him in.
Yeah,
And
well,
he can't force his way in. So,
well, then, maybe CPS.
What about the health department?
Yeah, or Child Protective
Child
Services.
Protective,
That's where
I
you have
think,
to go. They would,
Yes. Yeah, Child Protective Services. You don't get to, I don't think you get to say no.
No, I don't think you do either, no.
Yeah. So, I will get that application to you guys. Any other questions about, this process? I've got one more slide. Kind of like a group, there's Amanda, hi.
Hello.
What do you guys know about protected classes? Let's make a list of what you all know about protected classes. So in other words,
minorities, disabled,
yeah, so when you say minorities specifically, we're talking about
disabilities.
race and color, not jazz fans. Right, I like jazz, I'm not a minority, even though I am a minority of Americans. There's only 3% of Americans who like jazz. So specifically race and color, disability, what else?
Age.
Age is New York. And we'll talk about, you can discriminate based on age. It's the weird 55 and over thing allows you to discriminate. What else? Yes, so in New York goes beyond the federal law and includes age. What else?
Gender.
Right, so the federal law says sex. New York law says gender, identity, and expression. So me wearing a dress should not, you would have a big problem for denying me if I wore a dress. That would be a legal liability for the cooperative. There's other things.
Sexual orientation.
Sexual orientation is New York, not the, apparently that's not federal, I think. Familial status is the so this came out of single moms being denied because they were single moms. That's illegal. Marital status, you can't say no divorcees. Military status, apparently there was some denials of, this is New York now, there were some denials of people for like, I don't know if they were in the reserves or something. So we got gender identity, sexual orientation, and lawful source of income. You can't deny someone because they're
A
a
drug
bar.
dealer. Unlawful,
Unlawful.
okay.
Unlawful. So the bartender is not a steady source of income. Sorry, it's lawful. As long as so anything, that's it. That's the list. Oh, citizenship or immigration status. If they have their green card, you can't deny them. No, maybe, I don't think you can, in New York, it doesn't matter anything, if they have a green card or not. Check your lawyer. It says immigration status. So you can't discriminate on the basis of immigration status. That tends to imply don't ask.
John, differing abilities.
Different, so that would be
Differing, yeah.
disability. Yes, we got that one earlier. Yeah, Dave got that. All right, so that's the list. Those are all third rails. Don't step on the third rails. And I mean, our society created these rules because there were histories of prejudice and denials in the past. So there's like reasons for all of this stuff. All right, do you want to do 55 and over stuff, or is that good enough?
Explain it to us, John.
Okay,
Answer that question there.
so this goes right to what you guys were asking about. If you're 55 and older, Park, do we need to register? And I replied, no, you don't. There's no such thing as registering with HUD. All you got to do is put it in your rules and put it in your marketing materials, and survey, which you did, to establish your 80-20 split. And then the HUD memos say you need to redo the survey every 2 years. So the question is, do you need to knock on doors after the first initial survey? And the answer is no, you don't. After you do that initial survey, you have new people coming in, you keep records of those new people, you get their copies of their ID, and there's a list of what counts the HUD has a list of valid IDs. And so every 2 years you're recertifying. In other words, you're going through your records and you're in the minutes, you're saying, we have looked at our records, and you can say survey in your minutes. We have resurveyed our community and we continue to have the 80-20 split. And you guys had asked about the math of it, and I found several examples of the math in a HUD memo, and I can share that with you. Like they go into like, do you round up or down? Somebody had a question?
What if
No,
you
but,
have that 48 or 80-20?
What's the question about 80-20?
What if you don't have it? Like you keep doing these surveys, but you don't have that number.
Yeah, then it's a no-go. Yeah, do not pass go.
So
But
you're
you-
saying, I'm sorry.
But I was just gonna add that you've got 2 new people coming in who are over 55, right? Or one household. So wouldn't that change your math calculation? When these new people come,
What's
move
our
in?
number?
our the Woodlands numbers are fine right now. I think that that's the reason why you
Alright.
have to keep updating to make sure that you have your 80%, 55 plus. If you have 2 candidates come in and one's 55 and the other family is 20 or something like that, and you need that 80%, you're going to take the older person.
I will get you guys the examples, the math calculation examples, because I think you guys were on the bubble. You're definitely going to be over the bubble when you get the new people in, and then going forward, you'll be able to make sure that everybody coming in is either 55 or over. Yeah.
Well, the thing that confuses me is, say, today we're 80-20, which we
Yeah.
are, exactly, 80-20.
Yeah.
And we have these new people coming in and they're going to be over 55. Do we have to keep changing that every time somebody moves in?
What?
If we only have to do a survey every 2 years,
Yeah. What is it when you say changing that? What do you mean? Changing what?
changing the number of, well, we're 80-20 now. and
Oh,
so
but so you can be 90-10.
we can be 90-10?
Yeah, you could be 100% also.
You'd be 70-30?
No,
No,
No. Mm-mm.
yeah, at
John.
least 80.
John, I wanted to add, when you were talking about marketing materials and everything, that you also have to make sure that your signage shows that it's 55 plus community, which we're in the process of getting new signs eventually.
Exactly.
To
And
add
you have to
that.
change your rules. Yeah.
Yes,
Does
yes.
that have to go in the rules or the bylaws?
Brittany Terrace put it in their bylaws, but it could go, but everything I read said it should go in the rules.
Okay.
But the fact that they put it in their bylaws tends to indicate that it's okay to do that also.
Right.
And
So we
it
can put it
also-
both.
Yeah, but in our rules, it states that everybody has to be 55 and older in the household.
Yeah, so check that out now. Brittany Terrace has gone above and beyond, and it says they have done something that nobody else has heard of. They've said each person has to be 55 and over. So now this goes to, can it be a 54-year-old? So the answer is, HUD says, yes, it can be a 54-year-old, but the Attorney General of New York says you have to comply with your bylaws. If your bylaws say each person needs to be 55 and over, then you stated something that you need to comply with. You have to go by your bylaws. You can't break your own bylaws. HUD doesn't care. HUD says you can have a 54-year-old, but if your bylaws say it has to be each person in the home has to be 55 and over, then you need to follow your own bylaws. If you want to be looser than that, you can change your bylaws to be looser than that. HUD is okay with it.
Okay, then HUD would be okay if we said at least one person in the home is over 55.
Yeah, that's how they wrote the law.
Yes.
And that you still maintain your 80-20.
Right.
Yes.
That's how yep.
But aren't
Everything
you
they
only
write is
Person
those,
in that rule,
I'm
in the
sorry.
80-20, isn't it? You're counting one person, the owner,
Okay, let's get into that.
voting member.
Yeah, so this slide is that question. Can a grandparent take custody of a grandchild? Do caregivers count towards the 20%? And so let's take these first two questions. So if it's at least one person, if your bylaws say, or your rules say at least one person, yes, grandkids can come in. Caregivers don't count toward the 20%. So if you have someone coming into the community that is a caregiver, like a professional live-in or a niece that's coming to take care of somebody, they don't count towards the 20%. However, Brittany Terrace says at each person in the house. So Brittany Terrace, no grandchildren, no younger niece.
Right.
Right. So now, can the home be inherited by a younger adult? Well, the HUD memo talks about this, and what they say is that they intended the 20% to absorb inheritance. So what they mean is that a home, you know, it would be great if that could happen. So in other words, it would be great if a community was flexible enough to allow for a 40-year-old to inherit their parents' home. And that would be in the scenario where you had 85 or 90%, and then you would just be increasing on the 20% side of it, but you wouldn't be allowing it to go over 20%. So there should be some wiggle room there. It was the spirit of the law. But the Brittany Terrace example, and I've checked with the Past Stone lawyers, and I urge Brittany Terrace to check with their lawyers, but everything I'm hearing is it appears that lawyers are saying it's okay to be more strict. But HUD doesn't require you to be more strict. So that's what I found out. Any other questions?
Can I ask a basic question? Is there an advantage to being a 55 and older community?
And what do you all,
Why would you want to be a 55 and older community?
Bev, Dave, and Pat, why are you guys choosing that route?
You want to answer that, Pat?
Well, one thing we found that the younger people don't take as good a care of their property as the older people do.
That's very true.
Mhm.
And also in our area, which is a small city, and we're north of that small city, and there are a lot of retired people who prefer not having a lot of young people around with the parties or the noise. And so we felt it was an encouragement for them to move in if we had the 55 plus.
Okay, so
And that's, we had a vote, and that's how we got 55 plus. We had a vote of all our members, and that it was passed that they wanted it to be 55 plus.
Mhm.
okay.
Noise is the #1 reason people leave where they're living.
Okay. I don't think we have some of those same issues that it sounds like maybe you folks were having. So I was just curious if there was some financial incentive or
No.
something like that. It's just mostly a social situation.
Right. And the
Yes.
55 plus are mostly, well, they're more mature, for one thing, more responsible.
Right.
You're going to see more flowers.
More likely to pay their bills.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not always.
not always, but hopefully by the time they're 55, they figured out a way to do it. Okay, thank you. That I was just curious.
I have something to say. We have
Well, Carol, if I could, my apologies, we've gone over. It's 7:36. Do we have permission from the group to buy 4 minutes and go to 7:40?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Carol.
we have several homes for sale here. And we have a real estate woman who has a list of people that want to get in here. And she's not actually working for us I'll give you 2 examples. One woman or somebody was interested in a home and had 3 dogs. And we have it in our laws that it, bylaws and the rules that it 2 animals per household.
Yeah.
Well, the real estate woman keeps coming to the president and asking if we would make an exception on that. So we, the board, voted and said absolutely not, because if you make an exception for one, then you have to do it for all, then you need to make the changes in the rules and the bylaws. Okay, now here's another thing that I hope somebody, we have another couple interested in a home. The one person is 55 and the other one isn't. Okay, and the real estate woman again approached our president, and what they are doing, from what I understand, is they're having this one person sign an affidavit that she will not move in here until she's 55 and older. I don't know how that is acceptable. How,
That sounds acceptable.
it is.
Yeah.
This woman's not going to be 55 until December, and the husband is buying the home.
Yeah,
from what I
your bylaws say nobody, each person has to be 55 or over who occupies. And so the word occupies is what that affidavit applies to. So in December, she can come and occupy.
Well,
So that, but the good news is you're filling that home.
yeah, well, yeah. I mean, these homes need to be sold. There's no question about that. But
Yeah.
I just, I just didn't feel comfortable with that.
Well, it's unfortunate she can't move in immediately. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I've kept you guys longer than I said I would, and I apologize for that. But let's do this again in 2 months. Let me know. I came up with this topic because people were asking questions. I'm going to try to do it organically. I'm going to base these things on what you guys are asking about. So, and then we can all share, but we can also just have open conversations as well. So thank you everybody for showing up. Good to see you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice
Bye.
meeting all of you.
Same here.